Hey everybody, it's John Pollock here in our Fight Network studios. It's a pleasure to be joined by this man, a renaissance man, not just in mixed martial arts. This guy is out there everywhere, coming off a sold-out show here at the Phoenix Concert Theatre in Toronto, an analyst at Spike, at Showtime, co-host of the Fighter and the Kid podcast, the Big Brown Breakdown, Brendan Schaub.
That's a heck of an intro, man.
I'm out of breath here.
Yeah, I know. I need to pick a lane, as the kids say.
I've said this before, you do not get enough credit for something that on paper sounds like, something easy, and it's not. And that's the pivot from fighting to post-fight. And you've done it as well as anyone that I've seen over the last decade. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really remarkable to see how you have been able to turn over one chapter of your life and all the things that you've got on your plate at the moment.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, John. I really do. None of this was planned. It's not like I had this elaborate plan, like, fight this and then do this. It's just things kind of happen, and I just kind of ran with things and followed my passion, and I never do anything for money, and here we are now, so life is good.
How happy are you right now?
I've never been more happy. I'm so happy. I have my son. Work is going great, but I've also never been more busy. With fighting, it's very scheduled. So, jiu-jitsu, boxing, strength condition, fights in 8 weeks. It's you can calculate out. Now it's I'm here, I'm flying here. You got to be creative. So it's just a whole different kind of animal. It's great, but it's challenging.
What was the period like from your last fight to making that announcement several months later that you were going to be retiring? I mean, there had to be a lot of scary moments in that time. You have identified yourself for the majority of your life as an athlete and as a fighter, and changing that identity somewhat, that's got to be a big transition. And we've seen it. A lot of guys have had problems making that switch.
I think for me, like you said, it's kind of the unknown, which is scary. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Rogan gives me that infamous talk on his podcast, and the fighter in me, the athlete in me went, I'm going to prove him wrong. And I'm going to cut 205 of them and do this. The truth is, I never enjoyed fighting. Fighting's not my passion. I love fighting. I love to watch it, and I was a good athlete who went far in the sport, but it wasn't hard for me to walk away. And it's not that I had this crazy financial offer to do comedy in my podcast. It's just I love doing that. I didn't love doing fighting, so I just gravitated towards that, and it happened to work out financially.
When you look back at that infamous The Rogan podcast, it was really uncomfortable to watch. Now that you're removed from it, do you look at it differently than it probably felt like in the moment?
I've never seen it. I've never watched it. I actually lived it. It was an awkward moment. I think it was an important moment, not only for myself but for other athletes out there. Like if I feel like I could do something different, and Joe's like, listen, this is what you should be doing, man, or I'm worried about this. I think it's good. I think it's very harsh and. But I think it's a key moment, especially in mixed martial artists' careers. I think if everyone had a Joe Rogan, it'd help them out. But I've never seen it. Joe and I talk every day. He's one of my best friends. It came from a good place. I think other people view it different. He got a lot of flack for it, but he was doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think that I don't think anyone would doubt it was coming from a good place, and a stranger couldn't have told you that. It had to be someone that has that relationship with you that you would take that information, or I think you just discard it if it was coming from anyone else.
Yeah, I think Joe, his thing, he just went about it a really harsh way because he knew to get through to me, he'd have to do that. It was actually, people refer to it as a Joe Rogan podcast. It's actually a Fighter and the Kid podcast. There's supposed to be a Fighter and the Kid at Joe Rogan's studio. Joe and Brian didn't want to release the show, and I thought it was important. I thought, I can deal with the embarrassment and the shame of whatever you want to take from that. But I think it's good to put out there. And I think it was a smart choice, man. I really do.
When you're coming off like a show you just did, it was just last night, sold out show at the Phoenix Concert Theatre, you come off stage after a show like that. Yeah. Does that replicate kind of the high of what the greatest experiences you would get from fighting? Is it something totally different to you? This is you on your own. You're out there performing. It's different, but it's, again, you're putting yourself out there to an audience, and you don't know what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm nervous, but it's a different set of nerves because I'm so well prepared. I know my set. There's some improv, but I know how this is going to go. In fighting, you don't know, and you're going to get hurt. So I was always terrified to fight. I'm not terrified to do stand-up or terrified to go out to my fan base and perform, but to me, and this is the ego, the weird ego in me. When I was fighting the UFC, I was always upset I wasn't the main event. I wasn't the main draw. I wasn't the big pay-per-view seller. Well, now I'm in this. I'm the main event. These shows, I'm the main event. I'm the guy they come to see. And I would have never dreamt this if 5 years ago, or when I was fighting in 2013 at UFC 165 here in Toronto, after I beat Mitrione with a Darce choke in the first round, if we would have done a post-fight interview and went, hey, in 4 or 5 years, you're going to be doing this, I'd been like, what drugs are you taking and can I have some? Like, that's insane. That's never going to happen. So for me, it's so cool, man. It's nuts.
Do you get more of an enjoyment out of doing this, of doing interviews, as opposed to, like, I just feel fight week is the most difficult time to speak to a fighter. I don't feel most of you want to talk to us. We know it's very difficult on this side of things. Do you enjoy the media side more now, or?
I've always loved it. The UFC, I tell them, you can't book me enough interviews. And I think it's actually helped me in my career as far as entertainment, because I've never met a camera I didn't like. So when I was with the UFC, I'd tell the PR team, book everything you can. Make sure I'm part of Media Week, make sure you're doing this. It was good practice for me. And I love dealing with different personalities. And, a lot of guys aren't as professional as you, as good as your job. So you're dealing with these personalities and these weird questions and awkward questions. And they want to get those bits that are going to make TMZ or the weird story. So you have to navigate through that. I think it's good practice. I think a lot of other fighters and athletes should look at it like that. Like, you're getting practice for whatever you want to do after, or just to build yourself. You're kind of your own PR team. So for me, I've always liked the interviews. Now, it's great because it's not just about fighting. I had Donald Cerrone on my show, and he was doing Fight Week, and Donald even goes, how weird is it that me coming on your show is the biggest thing I'll do all week? I went, and you know why? He goes, why? I go, because we're not just going to talk about X's and O's, Robbie Lawler. We're going to talk about your lifestyle, whatever you want to talk about. We talked about hunting ostriches with our bare hands. It gets 1 million downloads. But if he talks about punching Robbie Lawler in the face, which we've heard 1 million times, it's nothing different. So that's why it works.
Have you hunted ostriches with your bare hands?
I've never hunted, but I feel like, Rogan's a hunter, Cowboy's a hunter, and I was trying to relate to him. I'm not tough at all. I said I'd be down to hunt if we can stay in the 4 seasons, like, afterwards. And so I was like, well, let's hunt something dangerous. He goes, let's go turkey hunting. I'm like, that's so boring. Let's go ostrich hunting with our bare hands. So we came up with a plan on how to kill an ostrich, which I would never do. I'd be the guy crying if we killed an ostrich. I'd never do that.
I don't think that you're sick of Toronto yet, but this is your second time to Toronto in just 2 weeks at this point. You of all people, I mean, where are you at Mayweather McGregor level at this point? Is it almost like you hear those names and it's you got to kind of get into a certain mode to be able to talk about it? Because, I mean, this next month is going to be insane, and you're right in the midst of it. I'm
in the midst of it. I love it. I embrace it. The issue I have is from the general public. Like, if you know your fight game, so if you want to talk and you have a point or an argument, let's do it, man. Boxing, mixed martial arts. I appreciate your point of view. But I'll go to my barber, pick up my coffee in LA, and I'll have random people go, Schaub, come on. I saw it in Showtime, man. You got to be kidding me. You think Conor has an actual chance? And I've dealt with it so much. All I ask, I go, hold on. Do you watch boxing? They go, no. I go, all right. Well, do you watch UFC? They go, no. I go, then what? We might as well talk chemical engineering. You don't know. It doesn't matter what my view is. You're just regurgitating something you heard maybe Skip Bayless say, an uneducated opinion. It doesn't make sense. So to me, the mainstream media is not doing a good job of educating the general public. Because the general public, they're just regurgitating this very common, vanilla kind of portrayal of this weird story, this spectacle, which it's not. It's actually a really good fight.
Well, to me, one of my pet peeves is the fact that the 3 words that I feel so many people are ever afraid to say in this modern time we're in is, I don't know.
Correct.
I don't know what's going to happen in this fight. I'm not afraid to say that. And you look at people that just want to take this fight, get a conclusion, and put it into a quick little soundbite, like, this fight's a joke. It's like, this is not going to be a joke to 4 to 5 million homes that
6 million
that could be buying this pay-per-view. It's going to do a number that is probably going to be astounding when it comes out. And the sports world, the mainstream world, it's going to stop on August 26th for this fight. So that is not a joke.
It's not a joke. And the thing is, with the mainstream media, what else are you going to cover? Like, everyone wants to hate on the fight. What else are you going to cover? You want to cover that 3-on-3 crap basketball league. You want to cover that? Allen Iverson's balls down to the floor trying to cross people over. I guess we can cover that. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about the offseason in the NFL? Probably not here in Canada. You want to talk about NBA, baseball? Like, this is by far the biggest event. You should be bowing down. This gives everyone content, from TMZ to Ellen to Showtime, ESPN, everyone. You now have this huge event to cover. It's your Super Bowl. They're actually getting more betting on this than any Super Bowl ever. That's how big it is. Showtime, I was talking to Espinoza, he's more worried about their system not being able to handle the amount of pay-per-view buys because it's going to destroy Pacquiao versus Mayweather. That's crazy, man.
And that was the case for that fight, that they had to delay the fight because of all the orders that were coming in at the last minute. It just seems, as much as people want to look at pay-per-view and where is this as a medium, to me it's the perfect place to put. You couldn't make this money on broadcast television for this fight. It is going to be so enormous, and it's going to show what is the highest level a pay-per-view can generate.
It's literally the $1 billion fight. It's going to generate $1 billion. That's nuts, man. No, you can't match up anyone else in the world and create this demand. You just can't. And I think it's cool to see. I don't get the hate. And what's weird is, I have this stance on where I think Conor has a good shot to win this or win some rounds, stuff like that. I don't get too much hate from the boxing community. Mm-hmm. The boxing community is a little open-minded. I mean, there's Max Kellerman, those guys, and I bet Max Kellerman $100,000 that Conor's going to win rounds. I get more hate from the MMA community, which is so strange to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of people just doubt that there is any possibility here to a Conor McGregor path to victory. Did you hear what Frank Mir had to say?
I have not.
He said, and it came across as, he was very complimentary towards you. He said, Brendan Schaub is a very smart guy. He understands fighting, but he's stating Conor's going to win because it makes for, essentially, that you're going to be the foil here to Paulie Malignaggi.
Gotcha. Man, I wish I was that creative. I wish I was that smart to have this whole elaborate plan where I actually believe in Conor. I'm this good of an actor. Listen, if I was this good of an actor, I'd be in Fast and Furious 17 next to The Rock. Like, I'd be an actor, full-blown actor. I didn't get this gig. Both my podcasts didn't become big by me just throwing bullshit out there. I hate to cuss for you guys. You can edit that.
No,
but,
we're all good.
With Frank, I get where he's coming from. Frank has such a knowledge of fighting, and he's so kind of just so into boxing. He trained with all these boxers, and especially late in his career, and he's been really kind of engulfed in boxing. So to him, it's kind of crazy. And I get his viewpoint. Does Showtime pay me for my analyst work? Yes. Has there ever been a conversation where they go, hey, and they know me, anyone that's ever worked with me, good luck, tell me what to do and give me a point of view. Showtime never said, hey, make sure you push Conor. That wouldn't work. It just wouldn't. It'd come off as fake. The one thing you can't do is pull the sheets over people's eyes these days. You just can't.
What point of the world? What's the moment like after that final leg of the world tour you're involved with? I mean, was every day just bringing more insanity? And I mean, in Toronto here, like, this was just incredible.
They should have stopped after Toronto.
Yeah.
Like, in LA, it was kind of feeling out period. You realize the magnitude of this press tour and this fight. You could feel the buzz. Toronto was like nothing I've ever seen. It was ridiculous. It was amazing. You had Drake there. You had people hanging off the rafters. It's packed. The chemistry between those two, and Floyd, really bringing it, and Conor stepping his game up, delivering like we thought he would do. It's the best press conference I've ever seen. Everyone's tired. Listen, me and Paulie are tired. Brian's tired. The Showtime staff is tired. Think about the fighters. They have to come up with content. The best comics in the world, the very best in the world, the best roasters, Tony Hinchcliffe, Bill Burr, some of these guys, have them try and roast the same guy for 4 nights in a row is going to be tough to come up with class material, let alone these fighters. So the first two, great job. Then we get to Brooklyn. We're exhausted. They're exhausted. It's a bit of a gong show. It's not, it's not great. And then London was all right, but I wish they would have stopped after Toronto.
You also had to deal with the monkey wrench. I mean, the press release came out that Ariel Helwani was going to be part of the Showtime coverage, and I was very disappointed with what happened.
Me
Ariel's
too.
a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I love Ariel.
That was a big break for him, and then it gets pulled. You were supposed to be working with him. What was that dynamic like where you're getting this? I mean, he was all the way flown to California and gets summoned to the hotel.
Have you heard this story? Has Ariel told you? So the night before the show, Ariel reaches out to me. Me and Ariel are cool. I've always been cool with Ariel. He texted me, he goes, hey man, excited to work with you. I went, yeah, I know. I can't believe they passed both of us. I said, it's gonna be crazy. Have your head on a swivel just in case. Ha ha ha, joking. So he takes a red eye from New York. I don't know why I'm laughing, it's messed up. He takes a red eye from New York to LA, and we're at the hotel where we're gonna meet and go over everything in the production meeting. And he's in a 3-piece suit, but the jacket top. I was gonna wear the exact same thing. He has his back towards me. I walked up and I went, man, good thing I didn't wear the same thing because we'd look like blackjack dealers, like making some lame joke just to break the ice. And he turns around and he has, his eyes are, they're heavy. And I go, what's wrong with you? And he goes, I'm out. I went, what do you mean? He goes, I'm out. When I found out the news, I just felt for him, man. I felt for him, and I've kind of always wanted to work with Ariel. We're complete polar opposites, man. I am not a journalist. I'm a personality with very strong opinions. Ariel is our, Dan Patrick. He's the best we have as far as journalists goes. He's so damn good. I thought, and it also validates Showtime having him part of that.
Absolutely.
So I thought it would have been a great dynamic. And Ariel doesn't agree with everything I say. But he has some facts to back it up. So we'd have had a good conversation. I would have loved that. What can you do?
Yeah.
The show goes on. I thought it was a bad idea not to have him. Ariel's gonna keep doing Ariel stuff. And I hope it works out, but I don't know the details either. Like I was getting a lot of flack and people were saying, man, you should boycott and walk off for Ariel. I love Ariel. I got bills myself, and it's a huge opportunity for me. I don't know Ariel like that. I also don't know the backstory. I have no idea what's going on there. If I did, maybe it's a different conversation, but Ariel's gonna be fine. It sucks, but Ariel's gonna be fine.
In terms of working with Mauro Ranallo, you've had the opportunity not just with Showtime, but also the recent Bellator event to be working with him. What was that experience working with Mauro?
Yeah, Mauro's amazing, right? He's one of the best in the business. I've been so fortunate, man. Those guys make me look good. I'm not this smart. I'm not this good at breaking down fights. I think having Mauro, and then working with Goldie, working with Paulie Malignaggi, working with Brian from Showtime, all these guys just make me look better than I am. With Mauro, when we shot that piece, no one really knew we were doing it. It's the first kind of thing I did with Showtime. I had a show in New York at Gotham Comedy Club, and my team and Showtime were trying to figure out an agreement. And they figured out halfway through my show, my phone's blown up, but I'm doing my show, and they go, man, we know you leave the next morning. Showtime wants to shoot tonight at midnight, do this piece. And I'm okay, cool. So we go to the very top of this building, basically next to the Empire State Building. They built this whole set.
Yeah.
And we get there, Mauro goes, yeah, we're just going to talk Floyd Mayweather, Conor. Went, perfect. And he goes, you actually think Conor has a chance? I go, 100%. And Mauro goes, great, I don't. I went, all right, can we roll? And they go, we're just going to do 5-10 minutes. I went, that's not enough time. And Mauro goes, no, we'll figure it out. I think we did an hour, me and him arguing. I was so passionate. I was in Mauro's face, literally screaming at him, showing the distance control and stuff like that. And it was great, man. I love Mauro.
Yeah, he's, you're also, without doing Mauro's deep voice as well, with the, great buddy, we're going to nail this.
Yeah. He's like, so you're telling me he actually has a chance, Brendan? I'm like, yeah, man. God dang it. Yes.
Just one thing on Bellator's recent pay-per-view. What do you think is next for Aaron Pico? How does he go from something like that where it was, in hindsight's 2020, it was a ton on this kid. I mean, on the broadcast, it was Jesus Christ.
I hyped him up as the LeBron James of MMA.
You had to walk it back a little.
No, not really. I think he's the LeBron James and he got stuffed at the rim, but he's still going to be a great asset to Bellator. The thing about that fight and Aaron Pico fighting this guy who's 8-2 or something like that, or I forget what.
I think he had 9 fights.
Yeah, 9 fights. He's a vet. He's a bigger guy. And in hindsight, it's a bad idea to pair up a guy who has no fights and doing that. I asked Scott Coker, I'm like, what were you thinking, man? He goes, we can't get the guy a fight. We have way bigger names who would not fight this kid. They know what he's capable of. This is the only guy who would take the fight. No one with any less experience would take the fight. That's how dangerous Aaron Pico is. He's going to be fine. You can't write him off.
He's 20.
He's fighting in San Jose on their next big card. He's going to destroy some guy, and we'll forget about all this.
In a weird way, I feel that this is almost, it could turn out to be a great thing for him, because I think for a lot of fighters, having and maintaining that zero, there's very few of them. I mean, you could look at John Jones. I mean, it becomes such a pressure-filled situation that you get that loss out of the way, and it's now he can make the growth without so much of that focus that I think he was coming in, and it was just, it was a ton of pressure that for a 20-year-old on paper.
20-year-olds, Madison Square Garden, they really amped it up. But that's the world we live in now.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants the next John Jones, or they want this freak athlete like a Colin Kaepernick when he jumped on the scene, or a Russell Westbrook. Like you have these freak athletes, and that kind of sets the standard. So these kids have to live up to the hype, and it's tough to do. Now, hopefully he turns out to be this amazing fighter, or he's going to Kwame Brown, the first round draft pick, who's just a bust. We don't know, but there are those guys. I think it's going to be the latter. I think he's going to be an absolute monster for Bellator.
Just shifting back to Mayweather and McGregor, do you know what will you be doing that night at the arena, or is it up in the air right now?
We're still up in the air. I know I'm working Monday through Sunday. I'm a packed schedule. I got all my custom suits lined up. I'm looking like a dime piece. But other than that, we don't know. I know they're kind of scrambling to figure out the kind of the platform and exactly what I'm going to be doing. But I'll be there, man.
Was this always something in the back of your mind? You mentioned really enjoying doing interviews as a fighter, that someday down the road, being in a position as an analyst or something in that. Was that ever something that crossed your mind, or something you just adapted to?
Never. I just kind of, with the success of the podcast with Fighting the Kid and the Big Brown Breakdown and kind of having more fighters on, it just, they came to me. I wasn't really looking for it. And with the Showtime thing, I absolutely love boxing. I watch more boxing, maybe MMA. I watch both a ton. But with the Showtime thing, it's just stuff just happens natural.
You and Paulie have a tremendous chemistry together.
Yeah,
I
it's
really
strange,
enjoy
man.
You too.
Yeah, I love that guy. Love him. And I thought we were going to get along like two Siamese fish, because he's very opinionated, I'm very opinionated, but it just seemed to click, which chemistry is everything. Chemistry is everything in these shows.
Well, with everything you've done with Brian Callen, was that a chemistry right away? Did that develop?
So with Brian and I, we hit it off right away, like instant best friends, like from Step Brothers. Do we just become best friends? Yep. Like for whatever reason, my best friend's 50 years old, and we just have this weird chemistry. And you see guys who try to mimic exactly what we're doing. Oh, comic and fighter, here. You're like Fighting the Kid. You're gonna get 10 million downloads a month. Man, I wish it was that easy. It just doesn't work that way. The success of the podcast isn't because Brian's a comic and I was a fighter. It's because Brian and I are best friends and there's chemistry. And we really don't talk about comedy or fighting. We do here and there, but that doesn't make the show. So all these networks, all these other podcasts, all these other shows are trying to mimic a comic and a fighter, and you see them just nosedive. And I just want to tell them, man, it's the chemistry. Just don't put two guys because one's an entertainer, one's a fighter, or one's an athlete, and put them together and think you're going to mimic our success. They have to be friends and actually care about each other. We never signed up for this to make money or to get famous or anything like that. Things just happen.
What's the dynamic been from doing live shows with Brian to more and more you being up there on stage from yourself? Are they different shows? Is it a different vibe when you don't have that tag partner?
Yeah, I've been super fortunate, in comedy. Basically, Brian gave me my training wheels. For a long time when we're doing the Fighting Kid Live, we'd always start with me doing a 10-minute story to kick off every show. These huge venues where I didn't feel the pressure because I knew I was just telling a story. I didn't view it as stand-up. So I kind of had these training wheels. And then after a while, I started doing stand-up. The Comedy Store asked me to do spots. The Laugh Factory asked me to do spots. So I'm doing these 5-minute spots, 8-minute spots. I'm like, dang, I can kind of do this. And then more venues. Hey, we'd love to book Brendan. We'd love to book Brendan. And next thing you know, I'm just freaking headlining freaking shows, and this is my life.
Well, wind things down, but tying the comedy with Showtime, have you had a chance to see I'm Dying Up Here?
Yes.
I really like it. And a lot of people are panning it.
No, I love it, man.
I really enjoy the show.
I think it's great.
Watch it every week.
But I'm also, anything Jim Carrey is part of, I'm on board with. But there's a lot of my comic friends are on there. Eric Griffin's on there. There's a lot of guys. So I like seeing it, man.
It's a great show. I really hope it's
really
renewed.
good. I think it will be. It's doing well.
Yeah.
It's doing well.
Maybe there's a...
I know, man. Let's get a camera. My thing is, I'm just too big, man. Like, those guys are small. I look like Shrek next to these other comics. It's embarrassing.
They put you up against the guy Hobbs. You could come in as the new asshole.
Or maybe, or I could be like the guy off of Game of Thrones. The big guy who carries the cripple kid around.
That's
I
true.
could maybe be that on this. Like just that big, I don't know, Shrek guy.
Well, you're a very busy man, so Showtime's gonna have to work around your schedule.
Right.
You're on tour right now. You've got the podcast that's going super successful. Congratulations on all your
Thanks,
success.
brother.
I said this on my show last week. The fact that every year when the UFC has their Fighters Summit, to me, it's if I was a fighter and I'm not, the guy I would want to hear a speech from is you.
It makes sense, right?
Rather
not
than a
Kobe
guy
Bryant
or a guy from Budweiser
Michael Strahan.
that's getting up there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's something that's a lot easier said than done, of fighters moving on after. It's a very difficult transition, and I think you've done it as well as anyone.
I really
I'm very
appreciate
happy
it,
for
brother.
all your success.
I really, really appreciate it, man.
He is Brendan Schaub. He's going to be very busy all next month. Of course, August 26th, a little fight going down from Las Vegas. He will be in the midst of it, and thanks for tuning in.